If you want to overcome the challenges of people not communicating, the challenges of people holding on too tight to what they know, and the stress of someone leaving and their knowledge walking away with them, then institute these 2 job performance expectations. It's going to be a game changer for you as a leader. I'm Elissa Shuck, ex-corporate hiring manager, middle manager turned leadership and career coach. It wasn't all that long ago that I experienced layoffs, narcissistic bosses, toxic work environments, and leadership challenges that had me wondering, why in the world did I ever get into management? But I've also had 12 career promotions. I co-founded a company. I've made multiple industry pivots and turned around poor performing teams. I've achieved everything I set out to do and imagined that I could do in my career. I created the Love Your Work Life podcast to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you're a high-achieving employee and leader, or you're one in the making who's looking to create a career instead of letting it happen on default, who wants a work life that feels happy and satisfying, you're in the right place, my friend. Let's get started. Hey there, welcome to another episode of Love Your Work Life. I have a question for you. Have you ever had somebody leave your team? Maybe they quit because they got a new job. Maybe you had a restructure and certain roles were eliminated. Maybe someone had to be let go or their position terminated for whatever reason. Happened to me. Actually, loss prevention waited until I got back from vacation to let go 3 people on my team. Good times. Another story for another time. But the point I'm trying to make is these things happen. And what it causes is a pressure for you to do more with less. We are experiencing this right now inside companies due to the disruption, to the layoffs, to all of the things. There's a pressure to do more with less. But I want to tell you something. It's kind of always been that way. Um, the budget isn't there for you to hire another person. Times are good. Business is good. Business is growing, but the budget's set for the year and there isn't any money for you to hire another person. These things are kind of always happening. Maybe there's another problem that you're facing, and that is that you can't get more done because communication is siloed. Teams don't talk to each other. It's an us and them kind of mentality. And they hold on so tight to their knowledge that they don't want anybody else to know. And that's driven by fear. It's driven by feeling threatened. Sometimes an environment can be so oppressive that people are afraid if they let go at all, that they're going to be obsolete soon. These are common problems inside workplaces. And if you're leading a team, I bet you've experienced all of these kinds of symptoms, these things that just keep you from doing more, whether it's because of layoffs or you just want to do more. You want you and your team to deliver at a high level. It's important to understand these problems and issues because you need to have a way to get past them. If you don't, then they're always going to be there. You're never going to be delivering at the level that you really want to, that you even know that you have the capacity to do personally and you and your team together. So what do we do about it? What is the solution? Well, first of all, the solution is getting the right people in the right roles. And when I say that, I mean based on experience and skills and knowledge. Of course, you're going to identify all that through the interview process. You want to set people up for success once you do hire them. That's also about getting the right people in the right roles and equipping them. But it's also about the behavioral strengths that underpin success. Almost nobody pays attention to this, but it's so important. And you know yourself, if you've ever been unhappy in a role, it's because the role was forcing you to behave in ways that didn't feel in tune with you. It's like being forced to be detail oriented when you don't care about the details at all, or being stuck in a cubicle when you'd rather be out and about engaging with people and make doing presentations. Maybe doing presentations feels like the most awful thing in the world, and you want to be in your quiet little space in your cubicle. When you don't get the right people in the right roles, considering their natural behavioral strengths and the behaviors that are most likely to create success in the role, you're just going to have problems. And people are going to be disengaged and probably not performing at the level that you need them to, at least not long term. I probably will do a more in-depth version of this podcast just specifically on those behavioral alignments because I have a really good tool that I use with individuals and with teams to help them align behaviors. And it's like magic. It's such a cool way to elevate and to get past some of these problems that I'm talking about. But the second thing, in terms of a solution to this problem of siloed communication, people leaving, is to pay attention to your job performance expectations. Now, it seems like a no-brainer. I get it. Of course, you expect people to do their job. And the job description is your thing, right? Hey, here's the job description. I expect you to do these things. But unless you, as a leader, set the expectation and make sure everybody is perfectly aware, as well as hold them accountable to it, then you're going to get inconsistent results. You're going to get inconsistent performance. And job performance expectations are kind of like boundaries. It's kind of like setting the stage so that everybody knows what's happening. Nobody is blindsided. Everybody knows that the standard they're being held to as an individual is also the standard that everybody else on the team is being held accountable to. But you might be saying, how can I do that? Because one person's job description might be very different from another person's job description. So, how can I hold them accountable to the same expectations? Well, you can, my friend, and I'm going to tell you exactly how. You do that by setting general behavioral expectations and then giving specific examples of what that looks like. Now, you might say being on time is an expectation. We would hope, right? We would hope we would have to actually say that it's a job performance expectation. But you know what? If you do expect everybody to be there on time, then you need to make that in writing one of your expectation. Maybe an expectation is meeting deadlines. It's part of the job description, sure, in some cases, but setting that as an expectation for the entire team helps with that interdependence that's going on. What if someone who has a job requirement of being on time with their project deadlines is dependent on someone else who has different job functions and their functions don't actually include the words on time. But if they're not on time, someone else isn't on time. Just setting that as an expectation amongst everybody makes all of your people feel good because they know, hey, they're being held accountable to the same thing I'm being held accountable to. If I'm not on time and someone else held me up, I know that they're going to be held accountable for that. Those are just two examples. And I know that you can probably think of some examples as well, but I'm going to give you two more that if you do nothing else but set these two expectations for your team, it will solve almost every problem that you have in relation to the problems that I addressed at the beginning. The pressure to do more with less, people leaving and you losing institutional knowledge, right? Like someone's gone in like, oh, rats. I don't know where they kept their files. Been there, and I bet you have too. These two expectations are also going to release the grip people have on their knowledge inside the organization. It's going to help people let go of the fear that they have that if they share their knowledge, then someone else may one up them. It's a game changer, my friends. And here are the two expectations. Number one, be open to learning. And number two, share your knowledge. When you set this expectation, what you're doing is you're helping every single person on your team know that they are accountable to each other and they're accountable to themselves. They're accountable to being open to learning. That means if someone else has some great knowledge to share, be open to it. Don't resist it. If you are instituting a new way of doing things, there's some new policy, there's some new process, there's some new edict from above, from executive leadership, then being open to learning as an expectation means, hey, we got to step up in this area. Sharing your knowledge does another thing. That means nobody can hold on to you tight. If you know something that can help the team, that can help somebody else, then the expectation is that you share it. These two expectations will absolutely help you create a team culture and dynamic that is interdependent. That means people working together, elevating each other, moving each other forward when the natural instinct is to pull back and resist. So, how do you introduce these two expectations? Well, I highly, highly recommend that you schedule a meeting. Everybody on the team is in the meeting. You introduce these two new expectations to your team. Hey, everybody, I just want to let you know that I'm setting a standard for our team on two new job performance expectations. The first one is being open to learning, and the second one is sharing your knowledge. Once you deliver those expectations, now you're going to give specific examples of what that looks like. For example, being open to learning means that when we have a new process that we have to execute in order to get something done, or we have some new deliverable that we need to step up to, that sometimes we're going to have to learn new things. And my expectation is that everybody gets on board, that we help each other learn the new process, learn the new tech, learn the new, um, gather the new information. Whatever we need, we're going to be open to learning so that we can continue to deliver at a high level and just elevate ourselves week after week, month after month, year after year. You know what those specific examples are for you. So be sure to give them. And when you do to the whole team, highlight different examples that are applicable to different people. So being open to learning for one person might look a little different than being open to learning for someone else. That's okay. You're giving examples that will help them understand, what does this mean to me? How does being open to learning look like for me? It's your job as a leader to set them up for success in that way. Now, the next one, share your knowledge, give examples of that too. Say, hey, when I say share your knowledge, what I mean by that is when Susie goes to a conference, we're going to have her come in and just download all her takeaways. And I want everybody to be open to learning as Susie shares her knowledge. You see how these two things go together. They are interconnected, and one just keeps reinforcing the other over and over again. It's also really cool when you set an expectation of sharing knowledge. That means no one can hold on too tight. That means sharing knowledge is just part of how you operate as a team, and it makes you stronger. And for you as a leader, if anybody leaves, you make sure that there's not these major knowledge gaps that are going to set you back and stress you out and have you searching everywhere for, oh my gosh, where did this person keep their folders? If it's a natural part of how you do team life, then you're never going to have those stressed out moments, or at least very few of them. After you share as a group, then you need to have one-on-one meetings with each of your team members so that you can offer additional being open to learning and sharing your knowledge examples for them. But more importantly, let them know where they stand with those two new expectations. Hey, just want to let you know that I love the way that you share your knowledge. I love the way that you're fearless about letting people know what's happening and what new article you read. And that's been such a great advantage to our team that you're willing to do that. But I would love you to be a little more open to learning, listening to what other people have to say, and absorbing it and applying it in the best way you can. I know you can do better in that area. By having those one-on-ones with team members, you've done a couple of things. Number one, you let them know where they stand. Number two, you've set the stage for your measurement of how they're improving or not on those expectations. They're not going to be blindsided when you follow up in a month or two and say, hey, remember when we talked about being more open to learning? I really appreciate that. I want to let you know that I noticed that. Absolutely. Let them know the things you notice. And then if you have to have a difficult conversation, hey, remember when we talked a couple of months ago about being more open to learning? I saw your arms crossed while somebody was sharing the other day, and it really gave off an energy that you were closed off to what they had to say. The expectation is that everyone on the team is open to learning. I know you can do that. How can I help? The other thing you do is that you make your life easier, because now you can observe from a place where everybody knows what's expected, and those conversations can be so much easier. And if those conversations are easier, your life is easier. But the cool thing is that you're probably going to have less of those communications because you've set everybody up for success. But when you do, it's not going to be as stressful because they know what your expectations are. So, my friends, if you want to overcome the challenges of people not communicating, the challenges of people holding on too tight to what they know, and the stress of someone leaving and their knowledge walking away with them, then institute these two job performance expectations. Be open to learning, share your knowledge. It's going to be a game changer for you as a leader. All right, my friends, I'll talk to you again soon. If you like listening to this podcast, I invite you to visit the Love Your Work Life website at elissashuck-careercoach.com. On the site, you're going to find free resources and information about all of my coaching programs, everything you need to land a great job, advance your career, and lead and build an awesome team. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and don't forget to follow me on LinkedIn.